This is the Bottom Line Sports Show with Gerald Brown and Rick Mahorn.
Imagine you trade a Chet Holmgren for a Giannis Antetokounmpo.
These guys are athletic as you know what, and you go like, oh my gosh, where's the fundamentals? Where's the pass first mentality? That's not in the league anymore.
And now here's your host, Gerald Brown and Rick Mahorn.
What's up, everybody? Gerald Brown hanging out here. Super excited. Got a little cat drop or so, but nevertheless, definitely excited about the start of the show. Really excited. And also, more importantly, like to say thank you. Listen, I want to take a few moments. Rick Mahorn is okay. He doesn't have any problems. There's nothing. Rick Mahorn is fine. He just had his wife's birthday. He had to do some chores and do some things, and he's still celebrating with his lovely wife. So salute to Miss Danielle, Mrs. Danielle Mahorn, and her beautiful birthday. Happy birthday, and definitely put Rick to work. So nevertheless, it's you see what I got on. You see what's over there. I'm not doing anything different. Got to stay with this. It's just exciting times. But before I get into all that, listen, wherever you're watching this, I say thank you. Again, follow me at G Brown Sports on Instagram, the original Gerald Brown on X. We got to get those numbers up. Really appreciate it. And here's what we're doing with the YouTube channel. On the YouTube channel, as you see it scrolling down there, we have a ton of, content that's there that goes back so many years. And, those that tuned in last week to watch Penny Hardaway, that's family, right? That is family. So we have a ton of interviews with Penny, Charles Oakley, Cato June, and the rest of the guys that have been a part of this unbelievable run as the Bottom Line Sports Show. But, definitely continue to follow. And we're going to give you nothing but quality product for the channel. And we're going to continue just keep expanding. So listen, I'm not going to make any excuses, and I'm not going to make any bones about it. This NBA Finals is twofold what the league needed, and more importantly, what is very good for the city of New York. I think this is also what is needed for the city of San Antonio. And I got to shout out some people. What's up, Leah Polanco? What's up, Achilles? Monsanto, what's up, Adrian Polanco? Shout out to all of them. I've been meaning to shout them out. They, hit me up. Shout me out. Leah Polanco, Achilles, Monsanto, as well as Adrian Polanco, all of the beautiful people. I say salute, what's going on, and shout out to the people over at Millions. So, again, getting back to this upcoming Rod Strickland, NBA legend, family, just unbelievable good person. And one of the things why I say that this is so important for the city of New York is the timing of this. We're all in this NBA transition of who's going to be the next guy that the league belongs to. At one point, we thought it was Nikola Jokic, and, rightfully so. Look, he's a great player. Don't take anything away from him. However, you're talking about people on the East Coast, right? Where is that star that people on the East Coast can really gravitate to and connect with, right? When he's in the Midwest, you had Chicago Bulls, Detroit Pistons. We could turn on the games. If it was an hour behind, we could deal with that. But in the midst of all of the talk about the challenges of being able during the course of the regular season to connect with the games and find the teams, you had to go to Peacock, you go to NBC, Amazon, all these things. ESPN, it became very, very challenging and difficult. And clearly, the biggest thing is people will put up with that if you have something and someone that's worthy enough to say, I will sacrifice. I will complain, but I will sacrifice because I need to see this player or this team. And what we have right now with the Knicks being there, listen, this is good for business. Like I said last week, and I'll continue to say it. I cannot tell you how much Knicks apparel has been flying off the shelves in stores in New York City. I cannot tell you how much demand it has been. And the interesting thing, I don't recall another time in the city of New York within the last maybe 10, 15 years, maybe even more, where I had massive amount of people reaching out. They were having watch parties on a Wednesday night, a watch party, right? Watch parties on the Wednesday and then watch parties on Friday. I don't recall this. And it's great for the game. It's great for business because, with all due respect, look, there's no other city like New York. You add in the mix that it's the San Antonio Spurs and they bring in the alien, Victor Wembanyama. I think that's great for business. And it's great for the city of New York. The weather finally looks like it's breaking through. So the timing of this is unbelievable because all I said before, imagine if they would have had a Thursday, Saturday setup where you would have had a game on Thursday, then a game Saturday. Local, establishments that again, watering holes, barbecues, you name it. And this is something that is connecting the East Coast, right? If you look at the fact is that Boston weren't the same this year. Jason Tatum, Philadelphia is Philadelphia, Cleveland, all the others. You needed New York. And what we're witnessing, we're going to get is a very highly anticipated NBA Finals matchup. And I think it's going to be great basketball. And look, I don't believe one moment that you can just count the Knicks out. I think that you can't definitely count out the San Antonio Spurs just simply because the fact is you have a guy in Victor Wembanyama who honestly has changed analytics. Victor Wembanyama has single-handedly, in my humble opinion, removed analytics from the game of basketball because analytics were predicated on 5-out offense, dribble drive, kick to the corners for threes, get to the basket for layups, all of that stuff. You can't do that against Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs. His impact has basically redesigned how offensive coaches or general head coaches will strategize for the game in terms of, how you operate offensively. And that says a lot because the way the game has been played, it's been something that, analytics, right? I mean, just go figure that you have a head coach in Kenny Atkinson saying from an analytics standpoint, we're up in this series. Analytics replaced common sense. It replaced the eye test. And I say that respectfully to Kenny Atkinson. I say that respectfully. However, Victor Wembanyama has shown thus far, you have an analytic approach. You will not be able to beat them. You will not be able to beat the San Antonio Spurs as long as Victor Wembanyama is out there and he's healthy. You will not be able to utilize this analytics to support winning and defeating the San Antonio Spurs. What a great series against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Look, I had picked the Spurs to beat them in 5. At one point, I said 6. But it was good for basketball because the Knicks took care of business against Cleveland, like we all know. And then you had this kind of lull, if you would, where there was time off And, it was really, again, about waiting for the NBA Finals. And this, the way they set up, it ended Saturday. Now we got the hype, the buildup, the anticipation. And that's all working into the hands in the favor of the NBA. And I think it's great. I think it's great that we have this. And more importantly, it's going to be very, very exciting. And, barring any injuries, hopefully Mitchell Robinson will be able to play with that broken pinky. This is going to be a magnificent series. And this is something that I can't think of. I don't recall. Maybe when the Miami Heat took on the San Antonio Spurs, was this a very anticipated NBA Finals. And it is something that's going to bear watching. And I'm very, very excited about it. Very, very excited. And I like I said before, yeah, I would have loved for it to be in a space where you have it Thursday, Saturday, but it is what it is. And just ready to go ahead and tip it up and get down to business. And look, don't cry and feel sorry for the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are in a space that they're going to be all right. They're going to have to make some tough decisions from an economic standpoint, which I think regardless of how Chet Holmgren had played. But if you watched or have watched any of the Bottom Line sports shows, just go back. If you don't recall, go back and listen to the opening of the Bottom Line sports show here. Just go back and listen to it, and you will hear the fact, as I said, Chet Holmgren for Giannis Antetokounmpo would be ideal, and it would be a great. Without further ado, let's bring up this gentleman right here. A gentleman that is one of the best in the an NBA legend, a guy that I looked upon as a snot. I was the snot-nosed kid. He was the big brother. He would pop me upside his head. But you know what? It was always a pleasure to have somebody that, first and foremost, you could be able to connect with. Same neighborhood, it just really reflect. He was always a down-to-earth person. He's had nothing but success and always appreciative of him, of his time. He's the head men's basketball coach at the Long Island University, NBA legend, Mr. Rod Strickland, joining me here. Rod, I got to say, Rick, and apologize, he had to take his wife to dinner. And so, he had just got off the vacation. He finally pulled the money out of that little coffee can that he had up in his closet and sprung some money to take his wife on vacation. But he do apologize. He definitely said we'll definitely do it again down the line.
Tell Rick I was looking for him. I was anticipating seeing my guy.
Yes. He's doing a lot. He's doing a lot, and he's doing big things. But thank you so much for your time.
Sure.
And I want to ask you right off the bat, when you look at this series with the Knicks and stuff like that, and just overall, what do you think the NBA Finals means for New York City, being a New York City resident?
It means everything. I mean, what. Last time we were in the finals, what was it, 99?
99, yeah.
Right? The last championship was 72, 73. So, I mean, if the Knicks win the championship, I might be scared for the city. I mean, I think it would be bananas here. But, I mean, anytime New York is playing well and New York is in this environment, have a chance to win a championship, I mean, it's good for the NBA. It's good for basketball. But us New Yorkers, we've been waiting for a long time for this, and to be right there, you can see it. They're capable. I think we've seen that all year. I mean, the good thing about the Knicks, you kind of seen the roller coaster. Kind of the bumpy roads, and you see them coming together at the end, and they've played well. They've gelled. Seems like everybody's about just winning. Everybody's kind of figured out their roles. So if they can bring it home, I mean, I just think New York will lose its mind.
Yes, there'd be a lot of that. And speaking about that, you had the fortunes of playing for both of these franchises and stuff, playing with the Spurs, obviously getting drafted by the Knicks. What has caught your eye about this run for both the Knicks and the San Antonio Spurs?
Well, I mean, just for the Spurs, I mean, they have a young, team. You know, they have guys. You know, their backcourt. You know, Harper and what's my guy from UConn, uh,
Stephon Castle.
Stephon Castle, and then De'Aaron Fox, who I think people forget about. You know, but they have a lot of young energy. Obviously, Wemby. So just to see them actually mature quickly, right? So I mean, they've been on top of the standings pretty much all year. Wemby is a different being, different game, different length, different mentality. And then for the Knicks, again, just the same. Just watching them develop. You know, I think there was a time where people thought Cat was struggling mentally, didn't like his role or what have you. You know, you saw guys struggle. You know, certain guys struggle during the year, and then now to see it all come together, to see the adjustments they made. Cat has the ball in his hands a little more, making plays, and I think people don't realize or understand or remember when Cat was in high school. Cat was basically a guard.
Right.
Like Cat made basketball plays at his size. You know, when he went to Kentucky, John Calipari introduced him to the post. So I think what we're seeing are things that Cat has been capable of doing for a while.
Yeah. You know, Strick, when you talk about that from, you know, the standpoint of the Spurs and, you know, them being this young team, right? I've said that, you know, you have anomalies that come along in sports, right? You just things that you look back and say, this is not supposed to happen. This is an anomaly. This is an exception to the rule. When I look at the San Antonio Spurs, and I say specifically Victor Wembanyama, I think his play thus far has really, if you will, maybe destroyed analytics, because analytics has been predicated on, look, run 5-out offense, do a lot of dribble drive, kick it to the corner. You're looking for layups, mid-range game, and you're looking for those corner threes. You can't do that against Wemby if he's down there in the paint or his weak side help defense and stuff. When you just look at that in terms of just from an analytics standpoint, obviously he might have just single-handedly changed the game of basketball moving forward. Agree or disagree?
I'm not an analytical person.
Yeah, neither.
I know I'm coaching now, but I'm not a big analytics guy. You know, obviously stats and numbers you're always aware of. But I just think he's a different being. The fact that he's so tall and he's on perimeter, you know, I think also he's learning to be a little stronger down low. His defensive presence, you know, that makes teams play differently. That makes guards play differently, especially if you're in the half court and he's down there under the basket. And then switching out and being able to defend. And so I just think he's tough in general. I think the Spurs, this series, we're going to see how they can handle this pressure.
Mm-hmm.
But Dylan Harper, and what's my guy from Connecticut? I'm sorry, I keep.
That's all right, Stephon Castle. That's all right. You live in the college world now. That's all right. That's all right. You don't have no eligibility in that.
But those guys have a way about them that, like you said, you know, they just seem to be different. You know, and I know Dylan Harper's pedigree from, you know, moms and pops.
Yeah.
I don't see any fear in his veins coming up anytime soon. So I just think, you know, everything is coming together. Then they have De'Aaron Fox, who's been in the league for a while. So I'm just interested to see how it all plays out. You know, I think the Knicks, you know, I think they as a whole, you know, they've been playing together. More guys have been playing well on the bench. McBride, Shamet, you know, so I think it's going to be an interesting series. You know, you got Brunson, you got Wemby, you got the young fellas at San Antonio, and then, you know, with the Knicks, they have some experience. They've been through the wars, they've lost, they've been defeated, and usually that's how it goes. You know, you get there, you get to a certain, you know, whether it's the semis, the finals, conference finals, you lose, you figure it out, come back again, and San Antonio's kind of doing it. This is their first go-around. So we'll see how they look.
Put your coaching hat on, Rod, and put it on and coach in the NBA. Just in a short period of time, and obviously just getting a glimpse of it. how would you try to stop him? Maybe just slow down Victor Wembanyama if you had to coach against him. What would be some of the things? I mean, if the smallest thing or whatever to try to perhaps maybe slow him down.
Well, I mean, you have to be physical with him. I would say that's the first thing, especially trying to get position down low. But then it's a dilemma because they're running ball screens and he's going in for the lob. I don't know how you stopping that, right? All they're doing is throwing it up. And if they can't get the lob, I'm sure the field guy is open. So I don't know. I think offensively, I'll try to get up and down the court, obviously, before they set up defensively. But he's a different animal. They're gonna have to be able to make shots. It's gonna be some driving kicks. They're gonna have to make threes, and I think they have to get out in open court.
Yeah, I thought you was gonna say you probably need a Rick Mahorn out there.
You know what I'm saying? Well, and I don't know because they won't let Rick be Rick these days.
Yeah. Well, in the playoffs, it definitely in the playoffs and stuff.
Yeah.
He would definitely be that. I want to go back to the fact that obviously, the position you played, and you played it very, very well, and getting a chance to see you not only at DePaul, obviously the Gauchos, and then just again ascending to the NBA. Do you think that we have reached a point that the past first point guard is gone, or do you think that in some way, shape, form, or fashion it will ever come back?
I think it will come back. I think the game is always changing, it's ever changing. I think the big man, the post play will come back eventually. But
Really?
I think it will. Yeah, I think it will. I think it has to. I think the game evolves, and I think sometimes it evolves too much, and you got to bring some back. We're in this basketball era of all the three-point shooting. I don't believe that's going to sustain forever. I think at some point in time, we'll get back to getting in the paint, playing inside out, as well as the three-point shot.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I think about point guards, this era is about scoring point guards. They have the ball in their hands at a high usage. But I think there's always, for IQ, I think there's always room on that basketball court. Obviously, now you got to be able to shoot the ball. But I think it all evolves and comes back around.
Yeah. I was talking to an NBA official a couple of days ago, and they were just saying, man, they was just in awe of your game, and Rod, the best. And BJ, I'll tell you what it was.
Okay.
I'll talk to BJ. I talk to BJ every other day. Man. I'm trying to figure out what he doing. BJ called me 12:30 in the morning and stuff, just talking and stuff. But the biggest thing is just a big fan of your game, going back to you guys played, I think, at ABCD camp, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just talking, and it came across to me that it just seemed apparent, and I'll ask you, do you ever think that your game was appreciated and given a chance by coaches and teams? Because, I know you've moved on. I know that's over, said and done with, and really, again.
No, but you don't know how many times that question just came. And his parents asked me that.
Wait a minute, you paused and stuff like that. I'm sorry, can you just repeat it again?
I said I had a recruit here today visiting, and
Really?
his parents asked me the same question.
Wow.
So I get that question a lot, but I think got to watch how you ask that question, right? Because I think on the teams I played for, I felt like they appreciated it, and I felt I put up numbers, and I just put my name because I get that question a lot, and I know how I feel about my game and what I've done. So I put my name in ChatGPT, and I said for it to tell me where I stand in the 90s. And it had two guards in front of me. It had Stockton and Gary Payton. And everybody, that was like the first tier. Then the second tier was, Tim, who am I missing?
Tim Hardaway?
Hardaway, Kevin Johnson, myself, and I think Mark Price. So it talked about the numbers, because I tell people, if you look at the 90s, put my numbers to the rest of them, and you'll see them right there.
Right.
But it had everybody's accolades and all-stars and all that. And I was the only one that had 0 all-stars. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had one all-NBA year. But for me, I think my teams that I played for, especially on the court, appreciated what I could do. I think, for whatever reason, it didn't translate into all-star games. And so I think once that happens now, because when it's all said and done, when people introduce 5-time all-star, whatever, I'm introduced as 17-year NBA vet, not all NBA second team assist leader. So, I think, that's, so it kind of works out like that. But I think my peers understand it. And I think I'm well aware of who I was and what I did on the basketball court. And I think I can put my skills next to anyone. But I don't know. It's just, I don't know. Sometimes word of mouth marketing, and also I wasn't in, I didn't play in New York for long. I was in San Antonio. I was in Portland. You know what I mean? I was in D.C. We were a mediocre team. So, the cities I played in and, getting to a deep playoff contention didn't happen. So I think all those things kind of play a factor.
Yeah, and you know what? I want to make sure I put some context in it, because clearly, look, nobody could ever question your ability. It's obviously the people know that, people that know basketball know what you can do and what you have done. And forgive me if I phrase that in a manner. I'm talking about from a standpoint, a organization saying, yo, let's lock him up and we build around him.
That's a different story. So yeah, I gotta take a hit on that.
Okay, and that's where, and forgive me.
No, it's all good. I got to take a hit on that.
What will explain?
Just, I would just say the professionalism part wasn't up to par. So I think they always came there. There always was some roadblocks, and I think if you look at why my last 5 years I played on 7 teams, right, and that was a big deal. Like if you look at my statistics, before that, I probably was 17, 18 points, 8, 9 assists, 4 or 5 rebounds, almost 2 steals. And then those numbers went down but that had a lot to do with what I would say the reputation. And so I didn't get the same looks, or you know what I mean? So I think I got to take a little hit on that. But if I'm just talking about basketball, being on that court and those numbers, and, I believe I had effect on the game, but I think a lot of what you're talking about, I think it had to do with that professionalism part. If I had to do it over again, if I was better at that, I think things, change a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, it's never it's undeniable. Obviously, what you did on the court is, like I said, it's NBA.
Well, this is a great conversation, because I'd rather people have an understanding of this. And I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and because that's why being in this space, it's always questions I want to ask. And I think the narrative has always been, well, yeah, Rod moved around, but you can never see the flaws in his game. And I think it speaks volumes in terms of just your character, in terms of saying, well, I got to take a hit on that, because sometimes it's individuals that are not self-aware. But at the same time, it's a growth process, because my next question would be somewhat like, it was challenging. Look, high school, legend, you coming from the city, playing for the legendary Gauchos, and then you go to DePaul, and obviously you do work in college, and then you go to the Knicks, and the situation there where Mark was there, whatever. But if you had to do it all over again, would you have preferred, if possible, for it to go in reverse, that maybe you go somewhere else, and then at some point in your career, provided if Mark wasn't there, whatever, because I believe they traded you for Maurice Cheeks, but go somewhere and then come back, being able to make the adjustment and obviously understand more of the NBA or whatever.
I think I would probably have struggled with that. I just didn't know what I didn't know. I was more of a basketball player. That other part I really, But I would say this: I wasn't anticipating being a Knick. Like I didn't think I was going to be picked by the Knicks. If you say that, yes, I had other ideas of where I would be, that I would be the point guard, right? So I was told I could go between 7 and 15. Seattle, my agent told me, Seattle said, if I'm at 15, they were picking me, right? Whatever happened, they didn't pick me, and then now I land with the Knicks. And Rick Pitino took me because he said he was taking the best available player. So he picked me, and I guess he figured he'd figure it out. But for me, I wanted my own team from the beginning. So when I got drafted, I was confused. I mean, even if you watch me walk down the
I was there. I was there.
yeah, but I wasn't, that I knew Mark Jackson he was just rookie of the year. I was looking at the board once Seattle didn't take me. I'm looking at the board and I'm looking at all the next picks, and I remember seeing, like, I don't know if it was Utah, Houston, I saw the Knicks, but all these teams had point guards. So I'm like, I'm not getting picked by them. So I got a call early in the day from my college coach, Joey Meyer, God bless. He told me I was dropping in the draft, and the Lakers and the Celtics called him. So I'm thinking, I may drop to the Lakers or the Celtics, which is not a bad thing. But now I'm also thinking, well, if they don't take me, I'm going second round. So, all these things are going through my head. So the Knicks weren't my option because they had Mark Jackson. So there was no need for me to even think I was going to the New York Knicks. So I was confused at that time, but I was happy. Obviously, I was drafted, first round, after sweating it out because Seattle didn't take me. So, it was just a weird situation. And I always talk about that. I wish, like, in this day and time, Mark and I could have played together.
But that was going to be my next question, because we witnessed Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. We witnessed C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard. It's positionless basketball. And I've always said Coach Pitino might have been a little ahead of his time. He was ahead of his time with that three-point shot. Do you think how do you think things would have evolved if you and Mark would have been able, or Mark and you, would have been able to play together and in that space? How effective and how do you think things would have turned out?
I think it would have been incredible, because if you watched us, there were times where he put us in the game together.
Yeah.
And as much as there was this elephant in the room, right, who plays, who starts, all that, we had profound respect for each other. And so when we got on the court together, this is the thing, it was almost like we were trying to make each other look really good together. Like, it's almost like we didn't even say that. But if you watched us on the court, I'm looking for him, you're looking for me, because it wasn't about the situation. Made it a little weird, right? But like, me and Mark used to joke, laugh, but there was always this other tension just because of who gonna play. So, but like I said, it was so much respect. So once we got on the court, it was like, hey, let's do it. Let's put on the show. But at that time, they just didn't. It was point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center, and But then if you look at it, you had Isaiah and Joe Dumars. Basically, you had two point guard. Joe Dumars just was a bigger,
Right. No, you mean that. You transition, obviously. Look, congratulations, man, on getting to the NCAA tournament and having success. I witnessed last year before that as well. Again, was really on the cusp of getting to that, elusive NCAA tournament and stuff. When you look at this process and just, again, what have you learned? Because obviously you've been an assistant coach, at Memphis and at Kentucky, among other places. What is the biggest adjustment you've had to make from taking that step up or that moving over to that next seat as a head coach?
Experience, just getting the experience, growth within myself. Like, I don't even think people understand. Like, I didn't know, like, this position came to me like, it's so weird. I was working with the NBA. I'm running Team Ignite, in the G League, and I get a call and they asked me would I like to be the coach of LIU, and within some days I was the coach.
I remember.
Yeah, it was, so for me it was a matter of being in this environment, feeling it out, being the first time head coach. So I'm going to make some mistakes. Just starting it, the environment, my staff, recruiting, and it to me, it's as simple as just the experience, understanding the environment, getting a feel for everything. Me as I've always been a corner guy. Like, I'm not seeking attention, looking for attention. If I'm in the room, hello, and I'm over on the side. So I had to kind of changed my personality to some degree. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you quiet as ever, boy.
Yeah, so for me, this is all growth, right? So for me to be able to do this, I've done so many things in basketball now. You know, playing at the highest level in the NBA, obviously, being an assistant coach, going to 4 Final Fours, winning the national title with Cal, to being an executive in the NBA, putting together something new with Team Ignite and G League, to now becoming a head coach. So it's me kind of challenging myself and putting myself in uncomfortable, maybe awkward situations and figuring it out. And, you know, I've always felt like I'm that person, like whatever, I figure it out. And so, you know, so for me, you know, my answer is just the experience of being here. You know, I think I'm good. I'm good with people, with young people, you know, people in general. I'm about loyalty. If you with me, I'm with you. If you're not with me, I'm not with you. Like, and so, you know, I had to get used to all of that. And again, the experience, the change, probably in my vibe, my personality being more outgoing or whatever. But I know basketball. I know people. Right? So, and I'm the type, I want these young people to, like, I want to put them in a position to do well. It ain't about me. I'm not running around here trying to show everybody or competing with other coaches or whatever. I'm trying to get the best and the most out of an environment, trying to create a culture, and I want everybody to succeed. The players, the staff, if we win, we all win. Everybody get to do what they want to do if they have their own ideas of what they want to be individually. Yeah, and that's basically it in a nutshell.
Yeah. You know, I had Penny Hardaway on last week, and Penny and I, you know, talked throughout the course of the year or whatever. And I asked you the same question because you guys kind of came in a space where the NIL emerged, and just all of a sudden now it was just this significant shift where, look, if you're not one of the Power 4, Power 5 conferences, you were just basically having to re-recruit kids over and over. How much of an adjustment, or better yet, how much do you lean on that NBA experience of contracts, negotiations that now has filtered down to college basketball? Because, you know, NIL is prevalent in collectives and all that other stuff where kids are just constantly moving on. How much have you leaned on your experience from the business side, if you will, of NBA that now obviously can help out in college basketball?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just like, first of all, as an NBA player, you know, things happen.
Right.
So things are on the fly. You can be drafted. You could be traded in the middle of the season and it's on to the next.
Right, but I'm saying the negotiations.
I don't know. I'm gonna get to that.
Right,
So,
got you.
I'm good at, like, you know, things change every year.
Right.
Now the negotiation and all that, what I can say about myself is I've been lucky, right? Because a lot of my recruiting comes from relationships. So where I'm at now, I think it's been a lot of, like, you know, I've gotten young men who played at a higher level, might not have worked out the way they wanted it to work out. And then now I'm giving them a space where I'm gonna give them the reins and help them to become better. You know what I mean? Play well, and then maybe have other opportunities. Or I may have some people who have some players who think they're good enough, but they're safe with me.
Right.
So I haven't, you know, obviously you got to negotiate. You know, I mean, we're not working with nowhere near the Power 5 level. But, you know, yeah, you have to play, negotiate and all that. But again, I think this becomes about, for me, it's been about relationships. Now, will this thing evolve? But I've been lucky enough since I've been here, you know, from the 3 wins to the 7 wins to the 17 to the 24. It's been each year people seeing us grow and become better, and then have more confidence that, you know, we're going to win here. We're going to have a good experience here. I'm going to put you in a position to be better, and then go from there, because it's year by year now.
Yeah.
So I can help you and you can help me, and we come in this environment, and now at the end of the year, I get to have a choice, meaning players or whatever, then, now we're working with each other. We just got to know we coming in, we got to compete, be accountable, be coachable. But at the end of the day, if I can bring you here, we can put an environment together where we're going to win. And also you get to be able to maybe play in a different way where you couldn't play, where you was at prior. And you can do that and be effective. And then now at the end of the year, you got a choice or more choices. To me, that's been a give and take.
Yeah.
My situation.
Does it speed up the developmental process, Rod? Because you know what, obviously, and there was a time where you would get a kid, let's say, maybe 2-3 years, obviously, before they transfer, whatever, but you at least had 2 years with a kid in terms of really having them get acclimated to your expectations with the system that requires what's asked of them. Has it sped up that process? Because obviously kids are essentially leaving after 1 year, and it's nothing against them at all and the freedom that they have, but has it sped up the developmental process for you?
I don't know. I think a lot of times, obviously, we feel like we developers, but a lot of times it's putting the players in the situations that they can be effective too, right? Because sometimes things don't fit in a certain way. So when you say developing, I'm a guy that if you can't shoot the ball, we're gonna get some shots up, right? We're gonna try to keep improving what you can't do, because I want to have 5 basketball players on the court. So that's helping them develop. I don't know if it's at a speedier pace or it's more intentional. You know what I mean? And specific. And so we work on these things, but I also give you an opportunity to play, right? Like for instance, I don't know how great this sounds, but early in the year, I had a kid that had 11 turnovers in the game. That's a lot of turnovers, right? And so I had to look at it as, and we won the game. So, but right, if that's someone that you look at and supposed to be a big part of your team, how do you handle that situation, right? Do you yank them, go crazy on them, or do you let them figure it out and then talk about it afterwards and then hope that, he gets better and better? To me, that's, when you say speed up, development, whatever, to me, that's part of the process of the year. And so that's the beginning of the year. That's development. You know what I mean? It's not always just you in the gym shooting a bunch of shots or putting it between your legs. Sometimes that development comes from experience and experience.
Yeah.
So how do you play? How do you navigate that?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. And I got to ask you, how much of the coaching has contributed to the gray hair and the voice? Because I've heard you sometime. Yeah. I'm like, am I listening to Doc Rivers? I'm like, wait a minute. How much of that? And then when I see you on the sidelines, I remember when I was watching one game this year, and I was like, dang.
Hey, listen, I got on the elevator with Chris Rock. I don't know, maybe a few years ago, or 3-5 years ago, or something, I forgot. And he just turned to me and he said, Obama. I was like, dang. That gray just creep up on you, man.
Oh,
man. And then it's leaving me, and I'm like, oh, man, I want my black afro back.
No, man. Definitely, like I said, I was showing you when we was in Vegas. I was like, wait a minute, for the summer, I was like, Rod?
Yeah, crazy.
I was like, yo, but
and I tried to black out and all that, and I'm like, man, I can't do it no more, man.
Oh, you tried it? You tried it? What?
I tried it. And see, I'm funny style, right? So I'm walking around, and I don't know if people know it or not, but in my head, I'm like, man, they're looking at me, man. They're looking at me. They know it's shining. It's like
some dudes out there. I ain't gonna call no names out.
Yeah, man.
It's some dudes out there.
That because I'm looking at other people too.
Right.
I'm getting real self-conscious. So I'm like, man, I'm done.
Just let it go. But you know what they say, with age comes wisdom. And Rob, before I let you get on out of here, man, give me a pick for these NBA finals.
Come on, man, stop playing. You're not gonna ask me that question. You sitting there with all the Knicks gear on, you in the back. In the back,
Hey, this is the jacket. This is the last Knicks jacket I got.
Orange Knick flashing on the white part of your jacket, and asking me what I'm going for. You know, I'm going for the Knicks. Even though I played with San Antonio, obviously happy for them. But I'm a New Yorker, and the Knicks organization by far, treats me like I'm one of theirs. You know what I mean? But no, seriously, I have to be going for the Knicks. There's no doubt about that.
How many games?
Now that I don't know.
Yeah,
I think it could be a tough series. I'm waiting to see how game one goes. But I don't know. I see it one of those 6-7 game series, and it depends. Like I want to see how these young fellas react to this first game. Because the Knicks, I think, they are more seasoned. They've been through it. They've had their struggles, criticisms, critiques, and all that. Spurs haven't had that yet. Those young fellas haven't been, obviously, to this stage, and neither have the Knicks, but they've been right at the door. So, I don't know. I'm curious to see how the young fellas react tomorrow.
Are you going to any of the games? You planning on going to either game 3 or 4?
I want to go, but I have something like I have an event on the 8th, because I already looked up the dates. I have an event on the 8th, and then I'm supposed to be recruiting on the 10th. So I'm trying to figure it out, but I do want to be in the building for one of those games. But
You got to take care of business. Listen, Rod, really, really appreciate you, man. And I know I've said this so many times, man. I know I was a pain when I was a younger ball boy and stuff like that.
I know that.
Yeah, but one of the things I always appreciated, and I don't know if I was able to communicate it. The fact is that from you to Oak and some of the other guys and stuff, it was something that I needed in terms of just individuals, male figures and stuff. Someone that I could sit back and say, oh, I saw him uptown or not that far in my neighborhood. I saw him at Holcomb Rucker Park and stuff, and be able to say, touch that person. That meant a lot because, again, the way you guys carried yourselves and obviously were very relatable. And I say thank you, man, because it really meant a lot to me. And even in afterwards and stuff like that, you always, man, kept it 100 and showed love. And
you always been my guy. You had a great way about you when you was a young fella. And that Knick team, we was like a family. Like we were all kind of bonded, on the court, off the court, and all that. And you was the young fella with the enthusiasm. You was funny. So it was all good.
I appreciate that. And listen, man, continued success. I'm not going to put that. I'm just going to put it out there, man. I want you to strive to be the best. And, just definitely, there's always this negative stigma that unfortunately is attached to, former NBA players being college coaches and stuff. You've definitely paid your dues. Yeah. And obviously you set up where you are. And I hope, man, that definitely nothing but the best for you. And if I got some kids and stuff like that, I know that where they need to be, because obviously you're not only developing basketball players, but you're developing young men. And I think that's the most important thing above all. But love you, man, and I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, and come to a game next year.
Yes, I definitely will be at a game. Yeah, I definitely will. I talk to Saeed all the time. I said, Saeed and Lanier and them always be sitting up. I'm coming out to a game, but definitely appreciate the time. And Rick said that, he apologized. He said, he can't get out of the place, but he meant to be here and stuff like that. He told me last minute, but definitely.
If he wasn't so big, I'll tackle him when I see him.
You probably be, hey, he about 200 pounds now. He done lost all his weight.
For me.
Thanks a lot. Here. Joining me, and man, so those that don't know, whatever, maybe you do know, Rod Strickland. I used to work for the New York Knicks, right? And Rod was a guy that at my tail end, perhaps a bit of ball boy, Rod was coming in there, and I saw the whole challenge of identifying to fit in. And what he shared right there was very authentic. You know, you can't knock that at all when a guy comes out and says, plain and simple, you know, he has to put some of that on himself, you know, in terms of maybe his game wasn't appreciated. And that's why I've always said, support the show, man, because the authenticity that you're going to hear from guys is real as it comes. And look, he's in his office. He gives of his time. That's family. And, you know, I appreciate that. Right? And I ain't trying to, you know, toot and say, oh, look at me, look at me. No, it's just really appreciating, you know, individuals that can come out and really share quality thoughts and share things that, you know, a lot of times you might not hear anywhere else. And that's why it's always important for the support of the Bottom Line Sports Show. And definitely appreciate that, and definitely appreciate the top fact, all the people tuning in. So coming up, the official JP, you know, JP, Justin Payton always has some great insight on a lot of things with these NBA playoffs and so much going on. But before we get into that, I got to ask, plain and simple, when I look at the NFL right now, I'm starting to question if draft picks really carry that much value in the NFL. Because, you know, I look at the LA Rams, right? And what they have done, again, has changed the landscape of things, where they, lo and behold, like a thief in the night, pretty much traded and acquired Myles Garrett. And Myles Garrett going to the Rams, Jared Verse going to the Cleveland Browns. And look, just a little NFL talk. And I've always told y'all about the NFL, how sneaky they are in terms of maneuvering and having deals done around this time of the year when the focus should be on the NBA Finals. But the biggest thing is, I have to question if there's really value in, you know, in NFL draft picks, because the Rams have done this twice. And this is the second time the Rams have done this. And yet they're saying, we don't care about draft picks. Here, take them. And the turnaround has been one where they turn around, they make a move. They got, you know, they got Matthew Stafford. Next thing you know, they took off. They won the Super Bowl inside their own stadium. And just to see them do this again and look up and say, well, where's the Super Bowl? Oh, it's in SoFi Stadium this year. It's very surprising. But I was always, and we were always under the impression that draft picks, NFL draft picks, like we're looking at all these franchises storing draft picks for this upcoming year because this quarterback class is supposed to be the best, all this other stuff. And yet you see one team that's just saying, you know what, take the draft picks. We want the proven commodity. So that is something that bears watching and just looking at. I have questions. Let's bring up this gentleman right here. You know what? He's a gentleman that's behind the scenes, but you know what? He is definitely a part of the family and an individual that, you know what? Amazing content, video editor. You got to check out his shows, man, and his insight on the game. Big fan, great brother. He's a part of the family. AKA official, it's just JP joining us here on the Bottom Line Sports Show. JP, you look like you working out, man. What's up, man? You come from an NBA workout? Come on, man. You know, wait, hold on. Yo, I'm trying to figure out why you got your hairs covered. I'm like, wait. No, JP, no. JP, come on, JP, come on. JP, come on.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. But
yo, JP, come on, JP.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to. I really had to. I didn't have a Knicks jersey, but I did have a Spurs jersey.
You don't do it, JP. I ain't gonna hold that against you. JP, first of all, again, thoughts on these NBA finals, man, thus far, and the preview associated with it. I'm surprised, man. You got this. So wait a minute. Let's go back to this. I can't get off of this. I can't leave this alone. So you said I couldn't find a Knicks jersey, so you went and got a Spurs jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean you're a Knicks fan, but you just took the next thing, or explain that?
Nah, I just don't have a Knicks jersey. I couldn't find like a Patrick Ewing jersey. I couldn't find a Bernard King jersey or a Marbury jersey or a Brunson jersey and stuff. So the only thing I found was I had like a Spurs jersey and had like Tim Duncan. So I was like, yeah, let me just go ahead and wear this for the show and stuff like that. Because maybe this could be the pick I might make a little bit later on of who might win the NBA Finals. I just don't know yet. But, if I'm wearing it, sounds like it might be possible that I might be picking the Spurs. But we'll see.
So you just gonna make you gonna make me sad like this,
Man.
First and foremost, I just want to shout this brother out because I've gotten to know Justin and really a big fan of his work, man. And you see the videos that is posted of the Bottom Line Sports Show guests and stuff, and I'm not just saying this because he's here. This brother is very, very talented. And, to be able to edit, but more importantly, you have to have that eye, especially when you're doing sports content. You have to have that eye. And it's not something that you can just pick up and say, oh, well, I know Adobe. I know CapCut. I know this. No, you got to be able to make sure what video or visuals, overlays, as they say, associated with the content that is being distributed. And Justin does a superb job. And I kid you not, make sure you check his stuff out. Official is just JP, on Instagram, and then JP Franchise 57 on X. Look at his stuff. Because the stuff is posted and I post up. Look at his stuff. It's quality. But the key thing, it flows with the conversations of the individuals. So I definitely want to shout you out, good brother, and let you know that, hey, man, that is some quality stuff that you do. And, sky's the limit for you. So I definitely want to make sure I give you your flowers before we get into this conversation associated. I'm going to try to get over the fact that you got that.
Yeah, I got you, bro. I got a T-shirt right here.
Don't put no Nick. Oh, you gonna cover that? Oh no, I thought you gonna put a Nick jersey.
No, I'm gonna cover it up right here.
No, you know what? No, stay like that. Stay like that. I want you to stay like that because again, this is Spurs and Knicks. But I gotta ask you, JP, what are you looking forward to about these NBA Finals upcoming?
Yeah, thank you for having me on your show, and thank you so much.
It's our show, man. Stop that. My show. It's our show. Stop that.
I'm a humble guy, man. I can't help it, man. I'm a humble guy.
Come on, man.
But no, I appreciate the compliment and everything. That means so much, especially coming from somebody like you that I respect the most. So thank you so much. Looking forward to these NBA Finals. Looking forward to the matchups and stuff like that. I know the Knicks had the Spurs number all season, beating them 2-1, especially in the finals of the NBA Cup. This is a different San Antonio Spurs team with their different lineups and stuff. Knicks has been on the road, winning 11, 12 straight games, shooting at a high percentage from the 3-point, 40-something%, and had a high offensive rating. So it's gonna be a really good series. A young team in San Antonio, and then you got the Knicks right there, led by Jalen Brunson, and the way they've been playing both sides of the ball. It's gonna be a really good finals. It comes down, like I said, it comes down to matchups. It comes down to how the guard play is going to work, which guard play is going to be beneficial. Is Brunson going to be carrying the load scoring wise? Is Cat going to be able to get out of foul trouble? Is Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, they're going to step up to the plate? Because Spurs is a young team. They're a young team, and the finals is a different breed. Like Penny Hardaway said, a lot of young teams kind of struggle in the bright lights and stuff. So, but it's going to be really good. And you've seen how views of with the NBA playoffs is the highest ever, since I don't know since, but everybody's been tuning in, and it's going to be a really good finals matchup. I can't wait.
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be a great NBA Finals matchup because I had said earlier, and just get your thoughts when you look at the fact is that the league is in this sort of space as they're transitioning LeBron out, right? And we went through a stretch where it was people were saying it's the Joker's league. We were saying it's SGA's league. Maybe Luka. And when you look at this has been a league that honestly you have a presence on the East Coast. So those guys have been out west, and it's so difficult and challenging to be able to see these guys. And if you're on the West, if you're on the East Coast, 10:30, you're not staying up to 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to watch Joker play against the Clippers. And no disrespect, but to have someone like the Knicks available, I think it is so good for the league. And like you said before, it's New York. And look, it's crazy, man. I said earlier, I can't remember on the internet as well as going to some of the sporting goods stores of how much Knicks apparel has just been flying off the shelves. And it's so cool to now wear Knicks apparel that people are just gobbling up this stuff to just put it on and get it and stuff. It's crazy because look, if they win this thing, man, it's going to be bananas. And it's hot. It's getting hot and stuff like that. It's really, really going to be bananas. What has stood out to you about the Knicks and this run that they have been on, other than the fact which has led to that 11 games or 10, 11 game winning streak?
Just the offense, because at one point in the season, the offense was kind of stagnant and stuff like that, and then everybody's been stepping up to the plate. Like I said, Brunson's the leading scorer, and then Cat's been playing really well. Then you got OG Anunoby hitting his shots. You got a person like Mikal Bridges stepping up to the plate. Josh Hart hit three or four threes in that one game against I believe it was the Cavs. And then, Landry Shamet coming out of nowhere in that Cavs series, just blazing hot. So their offense has been really clicking. And then I also love the pace, too, as well. It's they're playing at a much faster pace, and they're playing up and down, too. Because, if they go into the half-court offense and kind of slow things down, it's it's kind of difficult for them. But then when they go into this fast break and getting a lot of points over it and then just going with the fast pace, they play so much better. It plays so much with freedom, too, as well. So, and I love the fact that Mike Brown sometimes might put Cat in the post. I know Oakley was saying it a couple weeks ago about putting more Karl Anthony Towns in the post. I kind of like that kind of keep putting them in the perimeter and also keep putting them in the post, too, as well. So the offense has been very, very impressive, and also been liking their defense, too, as well, because at one point their defense wasn't that great, but then out of nowhere, they just started playing really good defensively. So I've been very impressed with the Knicks so far.
Yeah. JP, when you look at the Knicks and when you look at obviously where things are with the San Antonio Spurs, we've learned so much about this finals and these actually the playoffs. When you look at the Spurs, they're not supposed to be here, right? Somewhat, they say they're not supposed to be here. When you go into these NBA finals, can you even think about counting them out and just saying, you know what, the experience factor? I mean, have they proven all of that wrong thus far? And then could you just go in and say experience might catch up to them, that they don't have the experience going against the Knicks in the NBA finals?
Well, I mean, experience. I mean, I heard Wimby saying that their lack of experience has been really their strength on the San Antonio side. I'm very surprised that they even got to the finals, because I thought OKC would probably get them in at least 7 games. But I know that San Antonio was a really good matchup for OKC, and then the fact that it beat OKC, a good team, and was able to slow SGA down, in terms of the percentage-wise, shooting the ball, and then having Wimby just go against Chet. It was just easy for Wimby just to beat Chet, So, with that lack of experience, I mean, they're playing with a chip on their shoulder, and like Wemby's just like, really trying to like, get his championship ring at such a young age too, as well. So, like I said, this is the NBA Finals. This is a lot different than the NBA playoffs. This is where the bright lights is right here. This is, championship series. So we've seen teams in the past with lack of experience, like they can get to the NBA Finals, but then they come up short because of experience. So it's going to be really interesting to say the least. Like I said, the Knicks had the number all season long. So the question for San Antonio is like, we're going to depend on Wemby, to be the guy that's going to lead this team and all that. What about the other people? You got Dylan Harper, you got Stephon Castle, you got De'Aaron Fox. You got, Keldon Johnson. Like, are they going to step up to the plate, because, that team, they need everybody to play really well just to go ahead and win this series.
Yeah, it's going to be a dynamic series because I think both teams are kind of on an even playing field.
Mm-hmm.
Even the coaching, I'll be very curious to see how the adjustments, then also, too, I think I'd be very curious to see how much rust the Knicks have and how much of a tired, weary legs will the Spurs have after coming off of a 7-game series that was very grueling. But I really, really believe that this is going to be a unbelievable series. And you know what? It works out so well because, like I said before, we got Game 7 on Saturday, and now we're getting ready for the finals on Wednesday and stuff. JP, I'll ask you this. I want to ask you this before we go. I had mentioned that the NFL announced these 2 monster trades yesterday with Myles Garrett going to the LA Rams and then A.J. Brown going to the Patriots. And I said, it's one thing about the NFL that they just really, really set the bar so high that for them to be able to make these announcements and have these trades done, they don't care that the NBA is getting ready for their sort of Super Bowl. It just really goes to show the monster and the marketing machine behind the NFL. When you look at something like that, do you think that takes anything away from these NBA Finals matchup?
I don't really think so. I mean, like a lot of fans, it's their preference. If people like the NFL, they're going to go with the NFL. If the people like the NBA, they go with the NBA. So I don't think it takes anything away. I mean, we've seen it with before when the NFL started doing games on Christmas, and Christmas is NBA's day, and I know Charles Barkley said it on Inside the NBA. He said that it's their day, and he hates that the NFL is playing on Christmas and stuff. But it just shows you that like NFL is willing to market and try to do everything they can to grow their game and stuff, and go into all these different countries to play football and try to expand globally and everything, and don't care who they have to go up against and stuff. It's competition at the end of the day, and as fans, we love the fact that we can have like NFL and the NBA, and we can choose which one to watch, in particular days. So I don't think it really makes a difference of like, the NFL stepping on NBA's toes and stuff like that. If they were stepping on toes, NBA would have came out with a statement and been like, hey, NFL, you got to chill out or whatever the case may be. So,
yeah, it's too much of a marketing machine. And I've said before that these NBA finals need to be great. We set up for a phenomenal draft. And hopefully these young players that are coming in, we're going to have a nice NBA free agency because the All-Star weekend is up for grabs. And look, the NFL is going to go after that weekend so that they can have a Super Bowl where people do not have to go to work the next day. And at that point in time, all bets are off. It's game on. And the NBA now will have to once again try to figure out and identify putting their game in a space where now we're going to really see exactly how, how involved and engaged fans will be. But it starts with these NBA finals. And JP, the moment of truth has come. And I will ask you, is your NBA finals pick and how many games?
As much as I love seeing the Knicks, because I did pick the Knicks early in the season to go to the NBA Finals, because I felt like they were the best team out of the East until Boston came out of nowhere, and then I kind of changed my pick for Boston. But I'm happy that the Knicks finally got the NBA Finals, because they haven't been it since 1999, and it's a rematch against the San Antonio Spurs. I say the Spurs is probably going to win this series. It hurts me to say that because I know I'm talking to a Knicks fan, and I would love to see the Knicks win because it's been since 1973 since they won the championship, and I would love to see them.
No,
win,
you don't.
but...
If you did, you would pick them. You would pick them.
Listen. I got friends that's Knicks fans and stuff like that, so I told them like I'm happy for them to make it. So, but I'm gonna take the Spurs, and I'll say it's probably going to be 6 or 7 games. I kind of changed it to like 5 or 6, but I think it's probably going to end up being 6 or 7 games.
Yeah. Wow.
Hey, if y'all do win, then look, I mean, hey, y'all deserve it. So, I mean, I can't.
It's like, you know what? You see the open wound, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, let me take care of it. Oh, by the way, instead of this Band-Aid, before I put this Band-Aid, let me put some salt on this and put it in the wound. Reminding us that it's been since 1973, 76 or something like that, 73. And you just say that, but I respect that. You know what, JP? Appreciate the time, man, and closing this show out. We definitely got to do this again because I want some feedback on, look what just somebody said.
He ain't lying.
It says, look, it be your own people. See? I can't. It ain't me. It ain't me at all. But you know what, JP? Listen, man, really appreciate the time. We got to do this again.
Of course.
As these NBA finals and really, again, looking forward to a great series. As always, my brother, I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Anytime. And you know what? We're going to still give him some love. Justin Payton. Official is just JP. You can find him on Instagram. Official, it's spelled just like it is on the screen. JP on Instagram, and then on X, it is JP Franchise 57 on X. Make sure you check it out and listen. Check out his videos, and if you ever want to do a sports video, if you got some different thing, this man knows what he's doing. He definitely knows what he's doing, and he's got his hands on the pulse of sports, and definitely really appreciate him being a part of the Bottom Line Sports Show team.
Thank you, man.
Anytime. Justin Payton, join me. So as I roll out of here, and the biggest thing is that once again, where am I? I'm right here. Where am I? The biggest thing is, I don't know where I went. Where am I? Where am I? I'm here. The biggest thing is when you look at these NBA finals and the way things are setting up in terms of these NBA finals, it's really set up for an unbelievable finals. And I think that we are headed to an NBA finals that is going to be phenomenal. There it goes. And I'm really excited about that. And it should be really fun. I think that is going to be that. As I said before with the football, I mentioned about Myles Garrett, and I mentioned about the fact is I didn't really touch base on just the fact is that what the Rams have done, provided they stay healthy, it's going to be scary in that, especially that NFC West, right? The Rams, the Seahawks, what they're going to do, the 49ers, it'll be very interesting to see what type of fight that NFC West will bear. And it is something. But this is all about, and I got to mention AJ Brown. look, A.J. Brown comes now to the New England Patriots, and what is unique about that, they replaced Stephon Diggs, who was their number one, with A.J. Brown. Theoretically, that's all that they did is made that move. And I got to be honest with you, I had A.J. Brown in fantasy last year. It was brutal. I mean, it just was brutal. It just wasn't the connection that was there with Jalen Hurts and that offense. And that really started 2 years ago, but it was brutal. So understanding that A.J. Brown goes to the New England Patriots, he can operate with a young quarterback. And, Drake May, who, obviously got his team to the NFL Super Bowl. But you can grow with that young quarterback. And I like the move. I just question, and I don't know how much of this will be a distraction off the field. The whole thing with Mike Vrabel and really just the questions and some of the choices he's made off field. So it remains to be seen. I want to take this time out before in closing and just really, really, paying homage to a coach, that at the end of the day, coaching is a very, very difficult job, right? And some of the decisions you always scrutinize about that decisions and stuff. But I wanted to take the time to say rest in peace to Rick Adelman, long time, NBA head coach. And I remember Rick Adelman with that Sacramento Kings, and it was Adelman and the late great Pete Carroll, former Princeton men's basketball coach, and really just those two, along with Jeff Petrie in that front office for the Sacramento Kings. And it kind of reminded me somewhat of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where, you hit on some draft picks, you basically trade for a guy, and Chris Webber, who really looked at that franchise kind of like what people looked at with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a place where your career goes to die. And to see them with, Jason Williams and then Mike Bibby, and then having Hedo Turkoglu, Peja Stojakovic, Adam Vlade Divac, and Doug Christie, who's now the head coach there. That was an unbelievable, and I would like to just say fun team to watch, right? Offensively, the guys that played, and it was must-see TV. And I can recall just being a guy on the East Coast and watching those West Coast games, and they started to garner a lot of attention, that it became one of those teams that you would put on nationally television. And the battles that they had against the Los Angeles Lakers, the Dallas Mavericks, they were a prolific shooting team, right? And clearly they weren't Steph and Clay, but they were a very prolific shooting team. And they were so unique than opposed to the 7 seconds or less, Mike D'Antoni teams in Phoenix, or, even the Don Nelson teams with the Dallas Mavericks, or even the Golden State Warriors. They were a very unique team. At the helm of it was Rick Adelman. And I talked to some people that played for Adelman in Sacramento, and they always say he was just a player's coach, man. And, his son, David Adelman, is now coaching the Denver Nuggets, but didn't know him personally, but just from afar, he was a tremendous coach. And really just the outpouring of just really messages and really just highlighting how much he was well respected and well appreciated. So condolences go out to, Rick Adelman and his family in this loss and stuff. That about wraps up the show. I didn't make my pick. I think, what I'm going to say is, look, it's obvious. Knicks in 6. Knicks in 6. Like to thank Mr. Rod Strickland for joining me, as well as the official JP. Rick Mahorn will be back next week. Another dynamic guest will be on. And get ready for the NBA Finals. It's going to be phenomenal. And enjoy it, and appreciate all the people for tuning in live. And whenever you watch this, if you didn't watch it live, make sure you check it out on the YouTube page. Follow us on Instagram at G Brown Sports, as well as on X, the original Gerald Brown. I say thank you. For Rick Mahorn, I'm Gerald Brown. Thank you so much. Enjoy the NBA Finals. Bottom Line Sports Shows. Out. Peace.